the Merryweathers, right? So I was talking to you about this, and we can eventually get back to Bonifer if you want to.
Well, no, that's fine. That's fine. We'll keep this going, and then
Okay.
for extended edition, by the way, I have the Bonifer B plus R equals D.
Jesus.
Just,
Oh God.
just
Okay.
Bonifer plus Rhaella equals Davos, and it's pretty legit. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking over it.
Yeah.
As we're going here, it's
good.
Incredibly believable.
Yeah. Okay. So here's just something interesting. I want this is for our listeners to kind of think about as we explore more characters. So you have a character, Orton Merryweather, who is the Lord of Longtable, the head of House Merryweather. And let me see. He is the grandson of Owen Merryweather, who was a hand of the king to the Mad King, Aerys Targaryen. And he is actually, during Aerys' time, he's exiled from Westeros. This is, again, Owen Merryweather, head of the king. He's not containing Robert's rebellion. He's doing a piss poor job. So he is exiled. And he goes into exile with his grandson. He takes some of his family with him. And there, Orton will find his Myrish bride. I always say Taena, or I think it's Taena Merryweather.
Yeah.
So now the theory is, again, so this is someone who is possibly Robert. So the Mad King bans them. Boom, they're out. And to get back into Westeros, something had to happen. They were, again, working with the Mad King, hand of the king. You're pretty high up there. So even though you fell out of the Mad King's graces, you're still what I would kind of lump in terms of like a Targaryen loyalist faction group, House Merryweather. And so when he's exiled, the theory is that when Taena Merryweather shows up, now she's like getting involved with Cersei. She's in bed with her. She's scheming. She comes in with the Tyrells. She's kind of, people believe, a double agent. But her husband, Orton, there are some suggestions that like he was like paying close attention to the singer that Cersei kind of the bard that she imprisons, and that maybe he's not maybe he's more interested in men than he is women. I don't know. That there's some people who say that in the comments on this particular post. But Matt, the idea, and I never thought about this, they have a son named Russell, who was born in either 292 or 293 AC. He's about 1 to 2 years younger than Tommen. And so when Taena Merryweather is there with Cersei, she wants the friendship to kind of, happen between the two. Tommen is right. He needs people to play with, to hang out with, all this kind of stuff. And I don't know how many times it was, but multiple times she turns down bringing Russell Merryweather to play with Tommen. And this whole speculation sort of erupted. This is a best of 2019 best theory analysis. This is by Lord Too Fat and speculating about Russell Merryweather. So here we go. I'm just going to read this to you guys, and it's not too long. And I guess we'll see where we want to stop with this and get into some interesting stuff on who this could be. So I've seen this subject discussed a number of times, but never a post dedicated to fully develop the theory. First of all, apologies, English is not my first language, so we'll see how this goes. I think Russell Merryweather is King Robert's bastard. So right out the gate, Matt, that's a reason why you wouldn't bring Robert's bastard in front of Cersei. Okay. So during a feast for crows, Cersei wants the boy to come to King's Landing to befriend Tommen, yet Taena refuses and makes excuses and changes the subject. So he's mentioned numerous times. And again, it's just like, why does George mention his name? Why does he bring him up at all? If he's not, and it like brings him up, mentions that they have a child. This child could play with Tommen, but the mother is refusing to bring him to court numerous times. Although she's like, Taena is super into Cersei, supposedly sleeping with her, all these different things, right? So we know that Taena is 10 years younger than Cersei. That puts her birth date at 276. Orton Merryweather was exiled during Robert's Rebellion in 282. At some point, Orton married her in Myr during his exile. According to Gurm, conventional marriage age is 16. We also know that Russell was born in Longtable and is 6 years old. That means he was born in 293, which means he was conceived in 292 or 293. Taena was 16 years old in 292. So there's a lot of dates to follow. You guys can look all that up and kind of go through the math here and look at Robert's Rebellion and see where we're going with this. If Russell was born in Longtable in 293, that means all these events happened a short time frame, within a couple months. Sorry, the English is a little bit rough, so I'm going to try to translate it for you.
No, that's fine.
The Merryweathers get married. They return to Westeros. Robert restores Longtable. Russell is born. What happened here? Robert was good at turning enemies into friends, and surely this made sense during the war or even immediately after. For a controversial and new regime, it would be smart to pardon enemies or to distribute those lands and titles to reward allies and make new ones. But to seek out former enemies after so many years and restore their lands made no sense at all. Either he would have already awarded Longtable to someone else, or he would have kept it for himself and had no reason at all to return it to the Merryweathers. I think the reason that Robert returned those lands to Taena, or is Taena, she seduced him and got pregnant. And really, that's, for me, that was it. Like I read, okay, I guess that does make sense. He is someone, Robert's very against the Targaryens. He's very out on there being, he wants to kill Daenerys and whatnot. But what he will do is protect his own, right? He will take care of his bastards when he does father them. So that's something that he's done, whether it be a highborn bastard or lowborn, whatever. They're still kind of looked after in a way, even if it's by his people. So this makes sense if we take into account that Orton is probably gay. And if so, the Merryweathers have a lavender marriage. Taena is a trophy wife meant to win him prestige or to impress other men or to use her to influence other men. She is, after all, arguably the sexiest woman in all of Westeros. Surely you would prefer to have him close at hand where you could see him every day. He is your only child, is he not? And this is, again, a quote from the books. For the present, my lord husband has asked the gods to bless us with another son in case. Taena warmed the bed as well as Robert ever had and never tried to force Cersei's legs apart. Of late, she had shared the queen's bed more often than Lord Merryweather's. Orton did not seem to mind, or if he did, he knew better than to say so. Afterward, they had baked apples with a sharp white cheese. Lady Taena savored every bite. Not so Orton Merryweather, whose round face remained blotched and pale from broth to cheese. He drank heavily and kept stealing glances at the singer. So there's some of that evidence that, like, that he is basically that he's gay, right? That he could be gay, that he might not be the father of their child, and that Robert Baratheon was originally. So they haven't had another child since then. He doesn't care that she spends nights with Cersei, and he keeps staring at the handsome singer. Furthermore, Orton Merryweather is associated with horns. You shock me, my lady, the queen said, teasing. If danger excites you so, why wed Lord Orton? We all love him, it is true, but still. Peter had once remarked that the horn of plenty that adorned Merryweather's arms suited Lord Orton admirably, since he had carrot-colored hair, a nose as bulbous as beetroot, and peas porridge for wit. So, yeah. All right, here we go. This takes us down to Taena's mysterious, scarred, black hair lover. Taena laughed. My lord is more bountiful than dangerous. This is so. Yet I hope your grace will not think the less of me, but I did not come a maid entire to Orton's bed. There we go, Matt. I did not come a maid entire to Orton's bed. They stayed up late in the morning drinking Arbor Gold and telling one another tales. Taena got quite drunk, and Cersei pried the name of her secret lover from her. He was a Myrish sea captain, half a pirate, with black hair to the shoulders and a scar that ran across his face from chin to ear. 100 times I told him no, and he said yes. The other woman told her until finally I was saying yes as well. He was, God dang it, George.
I know, man.
He was not the sort of man to be denied. I know the sort, the queen said with a wry smile. Has your grace ever known a man like that, I wonder? Robert, she lied, thinking of Jaime. So wouldn't it be brilliant writing if Cersei had it right? Later in the Mirish swamp scene, notice what George does here. She wondered what it would feel like to suckle on those breasts, to lay the Mirish woman on her back and to push her legs apart and to use her as a man would use her, the way Robert would use her when the drink was in him, and she was unable to bring him off with hand or mouth. Those had been the worst nights, lying helpless underneath him as he took his pleasure, stinking of wine and grunting like a boar. Usually he rolled off and went to sleep as soon as it was done and was snoring before his seed could dry upon her thigh. She was always sore afterwards, raw between the legs, her breast painful from the mauling that he would give her. For Robert, those nights never happened. Come morning, he remembered nothing, or so he would have her believe. Cersei had voiced her displeasure the next day. You hurt me, she complained, and had the grace to look ashamed. It was not me, my lady, he said in a sulky tone, like a child caught stealing apple cakes from the kitchen. I'm like, Megan, I'm seeing stuff right. Double connection to apple cakes there, my friend. It was the wine. I drank too much wine. Sooner or later, there would always come a night when he would drink too much or want to claim his rights. Does she dream of Mir? She wondered. Or is it her lover with the scar, the dangerous dark-haired man who would not be refused? She was quite certain Taena was not dreaming of Lord Orton. So this goes on, man, and it's just, there's quite a bit here, just like different bits of connection that Cersei's thinking about Robert, like this man who took Taena the same way that Robert took Cersei. That makes sense?
Right.
100%. Yeah, there's a lot more, and I don't need to like read all of it. Again, Gurm's freaking writing is wild on this. This is some of the most intense. Like we think of Tyrion often, right? Yeah, Cersei gets into it here, and she
does in some of those later feast and dance. Yes, she does. Right. She definitely does, especially with Taena. And it's one of the. It's honestly, I really actually, I've said this before. George is so good when he talks about, especially when he talks about that, like how Cersei's relationship with her is that like she was never forced on her like Robert used to, and it actually makes you come around a little bit on Cersei and begin to be like, oh, then they start exploring her a bit more, like with her, how Tywin never gave her an opportunity because she's a woman. And you begin to sort of like Cersei a little bit. And then I know we get blasted. We have plenty of negative reviews where I've defended Cersei sometimes. Because everyone hates her. But I think it just shows the brilliance in George's writing to give you this other side of this character who you've mostly hated the entire time.
Right. Well, exactly. And talk about the brilliance of his writing here. Here's another thing too. Around Cersei, what sort of plagued her and what she went after early on in the series was Robert's bastards. And now she's hooking up with a woman who most likely she's treating Taena. And I hope I'm saying that right. I don't remember the audiobook as how it said, but that she is treating her the same way that Robert would treat her on some nights, which is sort of like the same way that dark hair, black hair, right? Robert Baratheon style hair man treated her and got her with child, which we presume is Russell. And she doesn't want that child to show up with Tommen because he's the spitting image of Robert Baratheon. And then, so anyways, all of that is really subtle. It's just, it's not really in your face. And I never thought about so now why does it matter? The big question with this group, with the Merryweathers, as soon as the whole trial breaks out and Cersei's in with the faith and things are going south pretty quick, see, like she rats out the Tyrells and Marjorie. And so she's ratting them out, but she came in with them. She's got like a double agent. A lot of people believe that she's working for Varys and that they're a part of this greater scheme, or maybe Dorne perhaps, and that they're just again coming into. There's a strong connection to the Targaryens, right? Again, House Merryweather being associated with the being Hand of the King, right? So his grandfather being Hand of the King, and then you got all this other stuff, Matt, which is like John Connington having feelings for Rhaegar, and now you've got a character like Orton who has a similar preference and who was also close to the Targaryens. His family was as well, and was exiled. And maybe, there's these alliances and there's a kind of a bond between these individuals who have been exiled and who have been sent away. And it looks like the reason he gets back in, the reason he and his wife would be a good chess piece to play by Varys is because Robert got her with child. His lust overcame it, and what the hell? We'll bring him back into the fold. You can have some of your lands back. He doesn't give him all of his lands and titles back, Lord Merryweather. So they're back, either a part of Varys' plan, some grand scheme, but they hightail it out of there. Clearly, they were playing a lot of different sides. Some people say she's just seeking power. But it's a fascinating kind of two characters to watch, I guess, when you think about Cersei. They get lost sometimes. It just seems when I first read it, didn't really know where is that all going. This House Merryweather, who the hell are they? Why does it matter? And then you find these sub sort of connections to the Targaryens, to Robert, and them possibly having one of Robert's bastards. It's just interesting,
Yeah, no, it is. Absolutely. I agree, because as we, just diving over all this stuff, it's one of these things. You and I were talking about this before we started recording, where there are no small characters in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
Even a character who come and go. I think we just get so bogged down sometimes with like Jon and Cersei and Dany, all the big players, that you forget about just how important all these, small characters here are. This Russell Merryweather, right? Which is where we sort of start.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to his wiki page, there's like two things about him. Like that's it. Right.
Yeah.
But you look at these two things, and it's like in the Dance of Dragons, after her release from imprisonment in the Great Sept of Baelor, Cersei asks her uncles, Kevin Lannister, send word to Longtable, asking for Taena and Russell to come to court. Kevin, who wanted to send his niece to Casterly Rock, agrees, thinking he can still send Taena to the Rock with Cersei and foster the young Russell himself at King's Landing. Kevin is assassinated before he can send the letter to Longtable, however.
Mm-hmm.
So
why does it matter?
It's on his list of things to do, and he's assassinated beforehand. So, obviously George has a plan for it, and he wanted the plan to get messed up. Like what we think Kevin's going to send for it's one of these things, but he gets assassinated before he can do it. Yeah, there's an episode we need to look at. All of the stuff that Kevin in that epilogue right before Varys kills him, he does. Right. He's got like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We should actually look at all of Kevin's plans and everything, the things he was going to do before he was assassinated.
Right. And we don't know whether it was it seems like Cersei hasn't caught on to if there was any plotting by the Merryweathers or whatever, whether she's caught on to that or not. But Varys you could say, is protecting that. He's just trying to undo whatever Kevin's plans are either way. What I think is interesting to look at how you have like shit. So the Lannisters kind of fall victim to giving into their lusts and their like romantic sexual tensions and passions and stuff because God, Cersei, I mean, freaking Moon Boy is in on all this too.
Don't worry. Don't worry. There is a Moon Boy video coming.
Yeah, standalone Moon video.
So it might be on April 1st, but it's coming.
I love it. But like, think about Tyrion, right? So you've got Shay and how that kind of undoes him, if you will. If you go back with Tywin's arc and his wife, and then things that were happening with the Mad King and different things, it's not exactly the same. But like Cersei giving into different needs and pleasure. Her cousin Lancel and like Jaime have a talk. The chapter I'm talking about here, and where he stops over at House Dairy, like they talk about these things, and he gets frustrated and he's upset about it. So she's hooking up with the Kettle Blacks and all these different things. So it's part of her kind of undoing. A lot like she hates Tyrion, but a lot of what she is doing is I mean, I don't know, man. It's like Tywin gave his son this advice, right, to not bring a whore into King's Landing with him. He does. Somebody should have been talking to Cersei because she's I don't know. So that's something that I just kind of noticed. And Jamie, I'm not really sure where we're at. Like that's a little different, I guess, right now because we're working towards something with maybe Brienne, but he seems to be growing more and more distant from his sister. So it's fascinating. All of it, dude. It's just there's too many. I mean,
Every
when you went
time
through that list, dude, there's just so many. There's so many characters that
it's never ending, even though the books are done. I mean, potentially done, right? You know.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
like,
At this point, yeah. It's wild that they would think we could stop right here and we're still speculating. Like it's just freaking. I don't even know what Winds of Winter is going to bring.
It's insane. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, be sure to check out our extended edition because as I have another big, long, massive theory of B plus R equals D, which is, we talked about in part 1 of this whole thing. So stay tuned for that. So everybody else, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We're going to keep coming back, but there's just so much to dive into, and House of the Dragon is getting closer and closer, and we've still got to dive back into some of that stuff as well. And then we probably, at this rate, if House of the Dragon it does start soon, we'll probably hold off on A Storm of Swords until season 1 of the show is over, just because who knows, it might be in a couple weeks. We don't know. I think we're getting a Super Bowl trailer.
I think so too. And the other thing too is we're having good fun with this because we've had a chance to get a lot of these Winds of Winter predictions out there, get them done before we move into our House of the Dragon stuff, which is we're going to go back to part 2, part 3, and part 4, wrap that up. And we've got, like you said, trailer discussions, different things we've got to talk about. So I think that's all fair and well.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Winds of Winter could get announced.
It could come out and we'd have to stop everything.
Well, I don't know that I don't know that it's coming out, but prime time to announce it would be in and or around House of the Dragon.
Yeah. That'd be huge.
So with all of that, guys, stay tuned. Be sure to hit that if you're watching on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's enormous help, as well as subscribe over there on iTunes. Write us a comment, leave us a review, send us an email at btkcast@gmail.com. Be sure to check out our Patreon because we have a ton of content over there. Or check out our Apple Premium, which does give you that Patreon extra episodes, as well as the content to all of our other shows. We do a Wheel of Time show, Star Wars, all of it. You can do that by checking out Apple Premium. So with that, guys, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And remember that winter is coming.